Hi, hey, hi. I hope I answered your email. I can't remember. Okay, good. This is fun. I run into people all the time. It's like, oh, I owe you an email, or oh, I didn't do the thing, See, you can take the girl out of Catholic school, but if you know, you know. Yeah, I've met a few other Catholic school refugees in the last few days. It's always nice to meet people in the tribe. Anyway. Okay, so it's great to see you. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you being here. And part of the reason that I appreciate you being here is because of this amazing article that Lama Tom sent me. Yeah, I know you thought you'd escape social media at church. I'm sorry, guys. But he sent me this fabulous article. Oh, wrong one. And I love the title of the article. The headline is, "Silent retreats are surging in popularity. Religion is optional." And it was an interview with all kinds of people who are connected to Catholic and Buddhist and Judaic retreats in the United States. And they say lots of people are showing up. And they're not necessarily interested in getting a religion or losing a religion or changing a religion. They just kind of want to be quiet in a place where other people are quiet. And I'm thinking, there's really something to that. Anyhow, I want to say, first of all, thank you, Lama Tom, appreciate it. He's going to be coming back to give Dharma talks in November. So we're looking forward to seeing Lama Tom back here in the seat in November. But the reason I wanted to mention this article that he shared with me is because I have been thinking for some time that we're having a moment, where people are coming to see us and they're hanging out in a room where they do nothing but be quiet together. And at first, I thought it was a little bit unusual that people would want to be quiet, but I'm beginning to get it now. Because not just from reading the article, but I do feel that we need some silence in our life at the moment, because it's getting a little loud out there. It's getting a little loud out there in virtually every way it can get loud. There's a lot of free-floating aggression and fear and so forth and so on, and dislike, and there's all kinds of things floating around in the atmosphere. And it feels like a place like this where people can just sit together and be quiet, silently supporting each other, silently being supportive to each other. I think it's something that people have not necessarily experienced in their previous life, their previous experiences of life. So I'm beginning to think that we actually have something here that you have all contributed to developing. You've all contributed to developing this place because you come here and you bring your goodness with you. You bring your goodness and your sincere wish and heart. You bring it here. And by bringing it here, a little of it stays here when you go. And I have a couple of guests here from out of town today, and thanks guys for coming. They like the room. I think it's safe to say you guys like the room. Okay, good. Because you had not seen, well, neither of you had seen it before, but you had seen it before the statuary got installed. Yeah, folks who come in today for the first time may not realize, but this room was designed as a Tibetan shrine room, traditional Tibetan shrine room, although the architecture is a little different from the usual Tibetan shrine room for purposes of building the steel roof. Anyhow, it's complicated. But these images and the cabinetry were not here until April. So we've been in the building for 3 years, 3+ now. And the shrine only got installed in April. And now we did have a very beautiful, temporary shrine. The temporary shrine was actually really beautiful, very, very enriched, and it looked great. But this did seem to turn the volume up a little bit, you know, on the whatever, on the blessing, you know. And I still love just coming in the room and looking at everything, just being present with all of these images of enlightenment, because one of my teachers told me that when we see these images and statues of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, he said it reminds us who we are inside. It reminds us of the richness that we possess inside when we are able to relax our mind enough to see it. Sometimes we're so busy we don't have a chance to see our inner goodness, our inner wisdom, our inner compassion. We don't have the capacity to see it because we're so buffeted by all that noise. And so when we come into a place like this that other people have invested with their sincerity, we feel something. And I feel that we're kind of lucky because even when this place was under construction, the contractor said, he says, I don't want to jinx it. He said, but nobody's stolen anything here yet. And he says, and most job sites are so porous that stuff walks away all the time. And we had security to ensure that it didn't. But he said, and there have been very few arguments here too. He said, we have our contractor disputes, but he said, it's not, he says, this place feels kind of good. And so it was because of the intentional nature of building it like this. And so I feel happy that we're able now to have everything that our founding teacher, Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, the founding teacher, born in 1924, escaped from Tibet in 1959, came to the US in 1976. I mean, he wanted a place like this for us. And it was a terrible misfortune that we had the fire in 2016. There was an arson fire that destroyed the previous little decommissioned Christian church that was on this site that we occupied from 1990 until 2016. Just being in the neighborhood, doing our meditation every week in this little old church. And it was tragic that it was destroyed in the fire, but this is what happened after. And so I guess when I'm talking about intentionality, this is what I'm talking about. Your intention bringing your goodness here, our intention reflecting that goodness back to you in the decoration and the place and everything. We just want this to be a place where you can come and sit quietly and be without anybody expecting anything of you. I just wanted to start from that spot and then mention the article that said that this is obviously something that people need right now. And so we're here for it. We're here for that. We're here for that. Because I remember a long time ago, there was one of the old timers, because this center has been around since 1977, before some people were born. And it's been around for a while. And we're going to celebrate our 50th anniversary in 2027. And in the early days, one of the old timers said, why are you spending so much time welcoming new people? And it's like, oh man, no, that's where the fun is. That's where the fun is and the discovery is and the goodness is, because we get to show people their goodness, sometimes symbolically. By walking in this room, we get to share this room with people and get to share this place and space with people. And so in a way, that's why I decided to talk about, as my theme today, creating community, because that's something that's intentional. We intentionally create community in this space. And I know I address this very frequently. I know you will have heard me say a lot of these things before. But every now and then I'd like to just remind us of how lucky we are and how fortunate we are to have something to share. And when new people come to us, it's a good feeling. It's an absolutely good feeling, because I remember what it was like to come to a meditation group and not know what to expect. It takes tremendous courage to come in the door to an unknown place. And if all of us can remember what that felt like for us, and then find ways to reflect back to that new person that we're glad they're here. We are glad you're here. And we hope that there's something good for you here. Because you've got to reward that courage. It takes a lot. So that's kind of where I wanted to go with the discussion today, was just to remark on the situation, remark on the fact that we need quiet, and that we can put it together and have it here. Because interestingly enough, we come here so we can leave here. I know that sounds weird. I know, it sounds like that old country song, "How can I miss you if you won't go away?" It exists, look it up. Dan Hicks and his Hot Licks, it really exists. But we come here so that we can spend a little time steeping ourselves in quiet and all that implies. Sitting in meditation, apparently doing nothing. There's a lot going on, because our minds are firing a lot of things. We're having lots of thoughts, feelings, emotions. But the discipline of meditation, the gentle, loving discipline of meditation, tells us that we don't have to do that thought right now. It's not required that we do that thought right now. You might want to do that thought later, but you don't have to do that thought right now. And which means you can set that thought aside. And setting that thought aside, there's space that arises in the mind where that thought was. That thought is now in its place, and it will come back. If it's important, it will come back. Don't worry. Our minds are kind of cyclical like that. So we set it aside, and then we experience the space that is the natural state of mind between thoughts. That natural state of mind, aware, and, where we experience mind's natural awareness and its knowing quality, that's there for us all the time. It's always there. And we don't notice it because we follow the flow of thoughts so rapidly. We're so used to it. And now our modern digital devices and the internet and social media, they all prey on this quickness. Sometimes it's used against us, but we do have the choice on the meditation seat to set it aside for just a moment. And doing that, we experience that natural state, which actually is always available. That's what our teachers tell us. That natural state of quiet is always available, technically, between thoughts. But because we're not used to slowing down to notice that space, we don't experience it. We experience like a flow. My buddy Bradley, it's like My buddy Bradley, and many of you will remember Bradley. He was one of our meditation instructors here for many years. He passed away some years back. He used the example of waiting at a railroad crossing and watching the train go by. He said when the train is going very quickly, it looks like a continuous motion. He said, but when the train slows down, you can see the spaces in between the cars. And he says it's like that with meditation. When you slow down the process by not grabbing every thought and by placing your attention on the object, whether it's the breath or awareness itself, coming back gently and with love and kindness toward yourself again and again and again, thinking, I'm coming back for a fresh start. My teacher told us, he said, you get as many fresh starts as you want in a session of meditation. No matter how many you have, it's not too many. Every time you come back, we are saying who we want to be, and we're saying what we want to think about, and we're actually claiming our agency and our own goodness. In that moment, we made a choice. And so by slowing down, we begin to become aware that there's more to us than just this stream of thought. That we have a deeper being that is love, that is wisdom, that wants to be compassionate. We have that, but sometimes we don't see it because click, 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 everything's going so fast. So I think that after reading this article, I guess that means we're going to get some more folks signing up for our silent retreat. What do you think? Yeah, Chuck and me and Lama Tom have done Saturday retreats here from time to time. Anybody here been on one? Yeah, okay. They're pretty nice, right? Although we aren't totally silent, we do our best. Functional talking, right? Yeah, pass the salt. Okay. So I think we're going to continue to do those at least quarterly. So watch the newsletter or our bulletin out front or whatever, or the website, and you'll see when the next one will be at, I don't remember. I don't know if we have one on the books. We've got to get one on the books. So that we can give ourselves that gift of spaciousness. But meditation is only one part of building a community. You know, when you're creating community in a space, the meditation is part of it. There's a traditional Buddhist teaching about what creates community. I just realized I didn't do the prayers. Sorry, guys. We're kind of deep in it now. I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Sorry. I get so excited talking to y'all. I forget the opening prayers. But we will do the closing prayers. That meditation is only part of it. And there are two other parts to creating an atmosphere in a place. And these three things are said to embody the entirety of the Buddhist path, of the eightfold noble path of right speech and right action and right livelihood and right intention and so on. So the first one is meditation, where we develop mindfulness and we develop awareness. And that it has two functions. One, to help us with our internal emotional regulation and to help us keep an even mind in the midst of very difficult times. But the other part of meditation is to see that space between thoughts as a potential place for us to be and to recognize our mind's true nature, which is goodness and wisdom. So there's the practical dimension and the spiritual dimension. But there's two other factors that go into creating community. One is called, the first one is called bhavana. in Sanskrit. That's the meditation. The second is discipline, and it's called Shila or Sila, S-I-L-A. And Bhavana, for those of you who want to look it up later, it's B as in boy, H, A, V as in Vivian, A, N as in Nancy, A, Bhavana. But the second aspect of community is Shila, or discipline. But it also really talks about basic human ethics, which is really interesting because I was asked a few years ago to give a talk at the philosophy of religion class at Ohio State University. And the teaching assistant who was in charge of the class said, now, you got to be careful when you come in, because these guys are tough. These guys are tough, and they have really grilled everybody who has come to this class. They've grilled the Christians. They've grilled the Jews. They've grilled the Muslims. They've grilled everybody about their ethical framework. And they're going to grill you too. And I'm like, okay, I am scared. But I'm going to go in and do this thing. So I get in there, and I start by quoting the Buddha, who said, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts, and with our thoughts we make the world. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts, and with our thoughts we make the world. Well, that's a good foundation. It's all in our mind, in other words. And then the next set of verses, he says, if we think, speak, and act with an impure mind, suffering follows us just as surely as the wheel follows the ox that draws the cart. So if we act, the impure mind is the selfish mind. The selfish mind, only interested in itself and not caring about others. So that's where suffering comes from selfish grasping, was the Buddha's basic teaching. But lucky for us, he also talked about the other side of that equation. I mean, it's so great. I think it's really cool that the Buddhism has 10 unskillful actions, but it also has 10 skillful actions, which I think is awesome. I had a Christian lady come up to me after a talk one time saying, well, at least you got 10 things you're supposed to do. I thought that was kind of cool. Anyhow, all right. So anyway, I was quoting this to this philosophy class. And the other half of that equation is, if we think, speak, and act with a pure, unselfish mind, happiness follows us as surely as a shadow that is unshakable. And then the Buddha goes on, he's like really into the groove now, talking about karma, right? We are what we think, all that we are arises with our thoughts, and with our thoughts we make the world. So he's really in the groove. And then he says, hate never once dispelled hate. Wow. Only love dispels hate. This is the law, he says, ancient and inexhaustible. Then he addresses the reader, you too shall pass away. Knowing this, how can you quarrel? So there's Buddhist ethics right there. That's it. Do no harm, practice virtue. That's the entirety of Buddhist ethics. So I said all this to the class. Questions? They didn't attack me. I was ready. But they're like, yeah, makes sense. I think the reason it makes sense is because everybody kind of knows in their heart of hearts that when you harm somebody else, you're actually also harming yourself. You're turning yourself into something you really would rather not become. When we are cruel to ourselves or we're cruel to somebody else, we're becoming that kind of person. But when we're kind to ourselves and kind to others, that is creating something different, entirely different. And so I was very pleased to be able to talk about Buddhist ethics to this class as being just this basic knowledge that selfishness leads to suffering and unselfishness leads to happiness, with some provisos, with some conditions, because we can want to get happiness for ourselves and then do it in all the wrong ways, and say, well, I'm just taking care of myself, and that's not flying. It's like if it makes me feel superior to somebody else, that's the judge that we have to apply to ourselves. Is this, am I holding myself up as superior to somebody else by my behavior? Or am I holding myself up as superior to others because of my opinion or whatever? So it's like that. So in Buddhism, we do codify behavioral principles, because tell people, do no harm and practice virtue and tame your mind. There's a little leeway in there that people can kind of sneak in and use their own selfish motivation and try to pass it off as something that's not. And so that's why the Buddha talked about the 10 skillful actions and the 10 unskillful actions. And I can't really, I could go into them, but it's like a laundry list, There's the 3 actions of body, the 4 actions of speech, and the 3 actions of mind. So does this mean our mouth can get us into more trouble than our mind? I don't know. 4 negative actions of speech. Gossip, then divisive speech. Gossip and meaningless chatter. Divisive speech, harsh speech, and lying. We're really talented at all of those. And the opposites of those, the skillful actions, are to talk about meaningful things instead of gossip and idle chatter, instead of lying, tell the truth with kindness and goodness, instead of divisive speech, use speech to patch up quarrels, right? And instead of harsh speech, speak gently and effectively. So it's like that. So it's like we're getting the whole idea of what it is to have ethics about our behavior. The 3 negative actions of body are to kill, to steal, and to commit sexual misconduct. And the opposites are the opposites of that. Instead of killing, save lives, which is why you see some Buddhist congregations here and in other parts of the world releasing bait fish. We had to check it out with wildlife first. Ohio Wildlife, we had to check it out with them first, because I did not want to be the Buddhist center that got cited for putting an invasive species in the Scioto River. I just didn't want that to be, I didn't want to be responsible for that. So, but you see Buddhist congregations releasing bait fish and things like that into streams and oceans in order to do the opposite of that thing that is not good to do. Instead of killing, save lives. Instead of stealing, give as you can, generously. And instead of sexual misconduct, keep pure conduct about your relationships. Don't use your relationships to hurt other people. So it's like that. Then the 3 negative actions of mind are, again, very basic human things we all know about. Ill will, ouch, ill will, holding ill will toward yourself or toward somebody else, ouch. Because we do it all the time, ourselves or others, it's like that. We're human, we have those feelings. But then once we have those feelings, what do we do with them? That's what really makes the difference. Anybody can feel anything, anytime. Lots of thoughts just come up. We've all experienced this. It's like, this thought comes up, and I'm like, where did that come from? That is not I don't like to think like that, but there it is, And, so one of my teachers said, you're never going to be able to control that first moment when something comes up. Never going to be able to control that first moment. He said, but the second, that will slowly come under your control. So I loved hearing that because it gave me some like relief. But the idea is ill will is not good. It hurts us, it hurts others. Then the other one is, I love it that some Buddhist texts steal the Bible word and call it covetousness, which is wanting what others have. And then the other is to have and to hold and to encourage others to hold views that are contrary to reality. Meaning, you go around and tell people, heck yeah, do whatever you want. There's no such thing as karma. It's all good, They talk about saying things that are obviously not true. Anyway, and trying to convince other people of them. Is any of this sounding familiar? So these are three things that people can do, and the opposites are to hold goodwill where you can and as much as you can, and then to rejoice in the good fortune of other people, and then lastly to hold and to work from a pure basis on behavior and thought. So that's the second of the ways that the Buddha taught us to make community. And the third of these is seva, S-E-V-A, which is service. Service. This action of helping others, it extends the benefits of the mind that is principled and ethical. It extends the benefit to the wider world around us, to others. It's a way of extending what we've gained from meditation, what we've gained from ethical discipline within ourselves. It allows us to extend that to other people, which is why I always feel obligated to remind everybody that they've brought goodness here, and I hope they take something home with them too. So there are three ways that service can be helpful to an individual. The first is that it increases our loving kindness and compassion, which are two different things in Buddhist definition. The Buddhist definition of love is to wish for the benefit of others, wish for the happiness and benefit of others. That's love, loving kindness. And compassion is the wish for beings to be free from suffering and its causes. So when we serve others, especially if we try to do so while holding our selfish motivations in check, it's not easy sometimes. But this is what makes it kind of challenging, because we have to watch our selfish motivation float in and out of our service. It's kind of cool to be honest with ourselves about ourselves. Self-honesty is so important. Folks who I know are in the recovery tradition understand self-honesty. It's a thing. We have to be honest with ourselves. And then the second aspect of service is that it counteracts ego fixation, which the Buddha said was the cause of suffering. Yes, grasping and clinging is the cause of suffering, but where does all that arise from? It's clinging to self, me, myself, I. That's the root clinging that we have. Service directly counteracts our selfish motivation and our clinging to being superior, being different, being superior, which is a core cause of our suffering. And my teacher told us it's best if you can offer service without the expectation of reward. But it's a continuum. It'll take some time. And the last part of service is that it provides meaning and purpose in life. Years ago, I've talked about this before. Years ago, I was interviewed by Rutgers University. I don't remember if it was anthropology or if it was a social science of another one of the social sciences. I was interviewed by Rutgers, and this interview with the research assistant took between 1 and 2 hours. It was incredibly extensive. And it covered the function of faith in the wider world and service in the wider world. And one of the many questions I was asked was, what do you think is the greatest problem facing the youth of today? And I said, well, it's true of all of us, not just young people. It's true of all of us. Having no purpose, feeling like one does not have purpose or meaning in life. And then the next question is, well, how would you give somebody tools that would lead them to, to having purpose and meaning? And I remembered my high school experience. As I mentioned, I went to Catholic school. And so in high school, they had us go to one of the public schools in town and help kids with their homework after school. And we got to see what those younger kids were going through. And they actually loved having older kids to talk to, work on homework with, and play with while they were waiting for their parents to pick them up. And I felt really good about doing that. And I said, maybe that's not the ideal thing for everybody, but it made me feel like I could make a difference. And I said, so to me, the two parts of that is to show youth a problem that human beings have. Human beings have this problem or that problem, and then show them how they personally can make an impact on that problem. And that would help. And this is really what service does for us. It shows us that there is more to life than winning the game. There's something more that's intangible, that's within that goodness. It's sort of a reflection of that goodness that we see in ourselves and we see in other people. So that helps to bring meaning to life that isn't attached to things, things that we could own or whatever. So what we can do with these three things, bhavana, which is meditation, shila, which is ethics, and seva, which is service, they help each other. Discipline supports meditation, and vice versa. When we meditate, we see how we suffer, and then we see how we cause our own suffering, and then we can extrapolate that maybe that other person over there is suffering too, and maybe it would help if I said something to them, like, hello. I don't have to solve their problem, I just have to say hello. Those of you who remember our old friend Herb, who was another one of the early members of the center back in the 80s, he used to say, when you don't know what to say, hello is always all right. When you don't know what to say, hello is all right, is what he would say. And meditation also helps service and vice versa. And service perfects discipline and ethics. So you can see they all feed and help each other. And in Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, in his teachings about this, he said that he called them the three wheels. The idea is that they make the cart go. They make you go. It's like it makes the whole thing work together. So I want to encourage everybody to reflect on these three things, and bring your body, speech, and mind to the place here. Meditate together. Look for ways to serve one another here, because there are so many service opportunities here. I think you may have noticed at 11 o'clock, my wonderful husband, hi honey, and Winnie were downstairs serving and feeding you. And I just think feeding people is such a cool thing. So they need help, because somebody needs to set up the coffee, and somebody needs to help them clean up after the Dharma talk and so forth. So, you can go check in, find out if they need any help. And if you see somebody wandering the halls and they're lost, help them get where they need to go. And say hello to somebody you don't know, because hello is always all right. If you don't know what to say, hello always works. And that creates community, serving each other and so forth and so on. All of the various teams that make this place go. I'm the only paid employee here. Everything else you see is offered by volunteers. I can't say that's true though, because we also have a security guard and we also have a bookkeeper and we also have a cleaning company, but I'm kind of like the only paid employee. But everything else happens. The food happens. The welcoming at the front desk happens. All of these things happen because people are offering their time. So you can ask about it. There's sign-up sheets, and somebody will call you. Our friendly guy Andy will call you and show you a way that you can be useful. So all of these things fit together, and so we create something here. Every Sunday we create something. It's like this moment in time gets created, and this moment that we're having right now never happen again. It won't happen like this again. Not this way with these people and this situation. That was one of my first teachings on impermanence ever, and it happened at a Catholic service. I tell this story a lot. I was in the 6th grade. And I had like an existential moment because of what the priest said. He started his sermon by saying, "Do you remember at the beginning I walked in the doors and I walked up the aisle, with my missal, and I started the mass, and he said, that moment's never going to happen again. Not like that. It will never happen again." And I'm like, my 6th grade mind was blown because I didn't really think about impermanence until then. So he doesn't know that he introduced me to the Buddhist concept of impermanence. He still doesn't know, and I forget his name, and he's probably passed away by now, but because I'm old, and but I love that. I love it that impermanence is like happening, because impermanence is our friend. I know that impermanence causes things to like wither and die, and it causes things to change and age and all this kind of stuff. But it also means that even negative situations are impermanent. So in a way, impermanence can be our friend too. Anyway. But I wanted to bring up these 3 wheels of service, meditation and ethics and service, and encourage all of you to see examples of those in your life and to find ways to enact those in your life, because it'll bring a lot of happiness. Now, I'm not ready to do the prayer yet, but if you want to have a discussion, we have 2 microphones because our wonderful volunteer, Don, we love you. Our AV department person is here. Hello, yes.
Hi, Lama Kathy.
Hey, hi there.
I love your examples. You crack me up. You really do. 6th grade example. So my question, within your talk, you talked about using the question, am I feeling superior?
Yeah.
If I'm struggling with, am I taking care of myself, or am I doing this to feel superior? Could you give some examples?
Oh yeah, self-care is kind of a different creature, isn't it? Because I think we are often a mystery to ourselves. I don't. Is this news to anybody? We are often a mystery to ourselves. Like, why did I do that? So I get it. And I think that when I look a lot of things through the eyes and the lens of recovery, because my dad was an AA guy, and he really gave me a lot of wisdom through his Alcoholics Anonymous recovery 12-step sayings and actions and words. And I think that self-honesty is so important. But we are still a mystery to ourselves sometimes, so we are not 100% honest with ourselves, and I think that's where we get confused. because we're not 100% honest. And so if we could be self-honest, like, how am I really feeling today? Am I really feeling up to doing this thing? Or is that, or by making myself do this thing, will I be hurting myself? You know, and I think that it also, so that's one way to kind of tease apart these unusual things. It's not necessarily feeling superior, but it's another way to look at this is our buddy Eric, who gives Dharma talks here sometimes. He used to tell me, because he knows I suffer from perfectionism. So he said to me, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And what that means is trying to reach some sort of perfect thing, a vision of myself as being perfect, and am I holding myself to too high of a standard? Am I not giving myself room to take care of myself? And so I feel like, you know, am I becoming a mean boss to myself? Right? You know, we have to, but I don't know if that's addressing your question, or am I talking around your question?
You know, in Al-Anon, there's a lot of focus on taking care of yourself.
Right.
Because you've tried to take care of the alcoholic and that didn't work. So I'm struggling with a friend who has set some boundaries with me
Okay.
in a way that was hurtful.
Okay.
And I'm struggling with forgiving her. And I think I'm feeling superior.
I get it. Well, sure, because I think that's where the inability to see her side of it comes in, right? And you know, here's the deal. Kempo Carther Rinpoche told me this one time. He says, look, when somebody criticizes you, he said, there's one of two possibilities. They could be right, or they could be wrong. He said, either way, you kind of got to be patient with them. And he said, let me give you an example. He said, when you hear somebody criticize you and you don't think you have that fault, imagine that they are telling you you have horns on your head because you know you don't. So just say, oh, they're telling me I have horns on my head, but I don't. Poor them. Poor them. Because they can't see me the way I would like for them to see me.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I wish they could see me the way I'd like for them to see me, but they don't. They see me their way. And so that's one. But then he said, what if they're right? He said, well, think, that person is telling me I have a nose on my face, which I obviously do. So he said, try to cultivate patience for their point of view.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you have to, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I hear some really good stuff on public radio. Sorry, I love it. And like this week I heard about some people who like apologize in advance and stuff like that. And it's really amazing. I just like, oh my God, I spent my whole life doing that. Okay. But anyway, so, you know, I'm trying to grow up. You know, 71 years old and I'm still trying to grow up. Anyway.
Me too.
Yeah, hey, we're all there. I support you. But I think that when we use the word forgiveness, we make a little bit of an assumption sometimes that may not be 100% accurate. Yeah. And that is, we have to make sure we define our terms. Because forgiveness, from my point of view, this is just me as one individual Buddhist. Okay, this is not the official teaching on, from the Buddha on this. But forgiveness to me does not mean that I say to the person, oh, what you did was right. That's not what you're doing in forgiveness. In forgiveness, I think you're saying, I am ready to stop being angry about that thing.
Yeah.
I'm ready to stop being angry now and find a different way to relate to you.
I don't want to feel superior anymore.
I get
That's
that.
true.
No,
That's true.
it's tiring, isn't it? It's
Yes,
really
it is.
tiring.
Yes, it
You
is.
know, There's okay, those of you who know, there's the 37 actions of a bodhisattva. I'm waving at my man Tom T at home. You memorize these. You're better than me. I couldn't do it. There's one of the 37 practices that talk about that, and guess what? I probably won't be able to find it. You know, it's like, oh, let's see a minute. Oh yeah, there it is. No, that's not it. There. Something like it's a different translation than this one. It's like taking delusive appearances as true. How exhausting. You know, how exhausting. Yeah. And I love that. You know, it's like we wear ourselves out with that.
It's true.
And it's like, so we have to find a way to give ourselves some rest and some compassion because we're not there yet, and just allow that person to be, allow the situation to be, and try to feel compassion for them in their own self-obsession, because nobody can see beyond themselves right now. We're not Buddhas yet, so we're gonna define other people by our terms and things, and we will use hurtful words because we don't know how not to yet. We just don't. We don't know how not to, because it's always served us before to use hurtful words. Yeah. We've gotten what we've wanted by saying hurtful things. So we have to feel sorry for the person who has no other choice but to use hurtful words, because, you know, they don't know what that means. So, just have compassion for yourself and understand that they were trying to tell us something, but they're either telling us we have horns on our head or we have a nose on our face, and try to be patient with the fact that they don't get it. One of my friends, is Lama Lama, the nun who has come here and given teachings before. She says patience is not putting up with something. Patience is being open to how other people are.
So true.
Yeah, so
Thank you, Lama
I hope
Kathy.
that's helpful.
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you.
Terrific. Okay, thanks. Let's see, next, and then we'll come back to, this one and this one. Yes. Hi.
Hello. Thank you for this teaching. As always, it's great.
Yeah.
This is a related question, and it came up when you kind of closed with impermanence. I've realized that in a lot of aspects of my life, there's always some degree of resistance, whether it's against a negative emotion, like I'm resisting feeling fear, or resisting feeling sad, or positive things like, you know, especially now when we talk about the kind of times we're in, it's like if I'm happy, it's like, oh, but it'll end. It's impermanent. Yeah. Or why would I be happy when there's so much going wrong? Or if it's just quiet, there's resistance against that because it's like, well, this means I'm putting something else off. And sometimes it's very small, but it's kind of, and sometimes it's a lot bigger. Yeah. But it's pretty frequently there in at least some measure. And I'm trying to work with it a bit more. But I just wondered if you had any thoughts.
I want to make sure I understand what you're describing, okay, because I think I understand, but I'm not 100% sure, so let me see if I can repeat it back to you. Are you asking about working with your own emotions about things, right? And are you asking whether you are working with them in a healthy way or not? Is that what your question is?
I know it's a way it's not a state of acceptance of what's arising, I guess. And so it's about just...
resistance, the whole idea.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, it's
just how to work with that resistance.
Yeah, you know? I think, number one, it comes back to what we were just talking about with the other questioner, which is like having some compassion for yourself, that like, dang, I woke up in samsara today. Dang, I don't know. You know, I don't know how to be in this like wild and crazy world, right? So I'm going to get it wrong sometimes. I think, you know, and I have a friend, and sometimes he talks about things and he prefaces what he's going to say by saying, now this could just be my confused projection, but ... And so what he's saying when he says that, I feel, is that he's saying, well, you know, I could be getting the wrong end of the stick, as the Brits say. I could be getting the wrong end of this, and I could be misunderstanding the whole situation. But yes, we do feel resistance, and the resistance does come from our self-clinging, from fear, from dislike, from all of these kinds of things. But I think, again, self-honesty will help us to sort of see the resistance, and then to say, I get that I have resistance to that. Don't negatively judge yourself for it. Just observe it. Dispassionately say, yeah, I do that sometimes. Yeah, I feel like that. But here's the thing. I created this formula in my mind. I said, yes, it's natural to feel that way. But is it necessary to continue feeling that way? Like injustice, right? You see injustice. It's like, yes, that I am immediately angry when I see or hear about injustice. But do I have to continuously put myself through that anger in order to correct the injustice? And the answer is no. So it's natural to feel some resistance, but is it necessary? And then kind of follow that down and see, well, okay, can I have a little compassion for myself, take a step back, and then try again? Because sometimes we come at something the wrong way, and then it falls apart or it blows up. Then we go, well, that didn't work. Then we get a little mad at ourselves about it, but we have to find a way to give ourselves some understanding and compassion. But I still think there's a part of your question I'm missing.
No, I think this covers it. I mean, I think I also sense I have the answer myself already.
Usually we do.
Yeah.
But I think it's like knowing what we're capable of now, today, and being honest about that, and being okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, this is as far as I can go today.
Yeah, I guess it's just about, in a time that seems so emotional, it's just like letting how do you let whatever arises kind of flow through you? That's because I resist about all of it.
Well, there you go. And yeah, exactly. And I think, and I just had a thought about that. I love being old because I had that thought and it was like, yeah. It's now gone. I hope you guys didn't get it over there. But, but I do think that, I think not being rigid in our judgment of ourselves, and being, and acknowledging we may not have all the answers today, but I'm gonna have to keep my thinking cap on this one, because I still think that I missed something, but.
Well, thank you.
But I'm glad we had the conversation. We'll keep having it, obviously, because I didn't quite do it. This will be the final question. Because we're at the bottom of the hour.
Good morning, Lama Kathy.
Hey, good morning, sir.
Mic check. Can you hear me?
Mic check, check,
okay.
check.
So I guess first, the anecdotal, just an observation that maybe the Abrahamic faiths tend to have a flavor for iconography and orthodoxy.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a little problem here.
I definitely feel feel that in the Catholic, and people have told me that particularly Tibetan Buddhism has a kind of familiarity with
I'm hearing that.
aspects of that. So, in terms of community, I just like being in a space where there's all these wonderful, emotionally regulated symbols projecting.
Wow, well said, sir. Yeah, you understand exactly what I think when
And thank you also for the reminders today of the basics. Always good to hear about that.
Oh, yeah.
But so I guess to the question at hand, my circular thinking about service. So I guess let me set this up with, like, it seems to be a thing that we, for lack of a better word, Homo sapiens sapiens, can take just about anything and make it neurotic or
Oh,
potentially
yeah.
negative.
Yeah, we're kind of good, yeah.
And the point of Buddhism is not to make oneself neurotic, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So
I
in
think you pretty much
service-
got that, yeah.
So in service, depending on our family of origin, trauma issues and
Yeah,
stuff,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Survival issues. People pleasing is kind of a problem, right?
Yeah, I get you.
And so
Yeah.
you can hurt yourself by service to others for maybe the wrong reasons,
Yeah,
or for
that
the wrong
happens.
motivations.
Been there.
And so in those cases, it's like, yes, service to others as a way of freeing oneself from, lack of a better word, ego sickness, or being drunk on oneself, right?
Right.
But on the other side of the spectrum, service for the motivation to try to control, to manipulate,
Yeah.
or to look for some kind of self-worth or self-value or self-security
Right.
externally, just as a coping and survival
Yeah,
mechanism.
no, I get it. And I think that it still comes back to self-honesty. And here's the thing. I found this to be true in my life. You can pretty much always tell when you're coming at things from the wrong direction. And I'll tell you how I know. It hurts.
Yeah.
Something hurts. Emotionally or physically, it's like the pain that I feel when these two things collide,
Yeah.
And when I'm coming from the wrong direction, I will feel physical or emotional or mental pain, and that shows me the friction of things not being right.
Yeah.
So, and then recognizing that, I owe myself a step backward. I owe myself a step backward, disengage from the situation, step back and look at it, and then see where that's coming from. There's a Tibetan teaching, a Buddhist teaching about Shenpa, Shenpa. Now that's a Tibetan word, and it means actually to be hooked by something.
Gotcha.
And you can feel tension in your body somewhere.
Boy, do I ever.
Okay, so it's like, and then
Let
taking
go or
that-
be dragged.
I'm hearing it. Yep. And then you take a step backward, and lucky for us, that step backward is available to us because of meditation, because we step away from that single thought in meditation and put it over there. Then we have the capacity to step back. But then we have something called mind training, or lojong in Tibetan, where we can actually then engage in an alternative reaction or an alternative response to that hook. And it usually has to do with relaxation and compassion for ourselves and for the other person. And so we're going to get it wrong. Those of you who've read the big book of AA will know that there's this whole section on conscious contact with the higher power of one's understanding, where when you first start doing it, it says your attempts will be awkward, and then not seem to be useful. And that's how it is. When we first take that step back and try to go at it from a different point of view, it may not work. But I really appreciate just the process. The fact that we have a process where we can step back from Shenpa, recognize it in ourselves by the tension in the body, step back, and then engage in the opposite, which is sending love and compassion to ourselves. We have this compassion meditation called Tonglen. On the out-breath, we imagine sending goodness to the whole world. But we can also start that process by sending goodness to ourselves on the out-breath. And even if you can't do anything else, just send some goodness out to yourself on that.
Yeah.
And then that will help take a step toward the regulation that we're all looking for.
Yeah, it's like, it makes me think also that, like, the principle, like the idea that nature or the natural world abhors voids. And so, like, if you want to get rid of something, you got to make sure you're not feeding it, and then also figure out what you're going to replace it with, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Very similar.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I appreciate you bringing that. I really appreciate you bringing that. Yeah, because, we need these things. We need these things. remember, I told you I forgot the opening prayer, but I'm going to remember the last one. I'm going to remember the closing prayer. You brought goodness to this place, so now we're going to like bless that goodness, and then we're going to share it with everybody. That's the Buddhist way. We take that goodness and we share it with everybody else. We bless it and we share it. So that's what's happening. We're, in the first verse, we're wishing for everybody to have the qualities of Buddha. And in the second part of it, we're talking about the ultimate reality, which is limitlessness and wisdom. So we'll do this in English just one time through. By this merit, may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. The courageous Manjushri, who knows everything as it is, Samantabhadra, who also knows in the same way, and all the bodhisattvas, that I may follow in their path, I completely dedicate all this virtue. Thanks, everyone. And we will see you next week. Be safe out there, and we'll see you next time around. Okay, thank you, and thank you thank you, Mr. Soundman. Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, how are you?